a student at Coder Academy completing a hackathon project for a React SPA. So I took this project to uplift my original portfolio piece that we completed in term 1 and see how I could reimagine this in... Actually, I don't like the actual side. The code view of my project. So to start with, we're on our main.jsx, which is our primary output to HTML, I suppose you'd call it. So in here we have our browser router and our app being passed through. In our app is where we have our routes, and as I'm looking at this, I can delete these. Originally, I had the navbar and the footer built directly into this app, so we've made some changes there to have those as output functions in the template. So our routes, we've only got the 3. We've got our homepage, we've got our repos, and we've got our contact. All the other links that you might have seen on the page are external links. From here, we'll show the template as it's quite basic. We have our outlet, we have our navbar, and we have our footer. We may as well look at those components first. So we'll look at the navbar first, which, as we said, was using the Bootstrap React components of this navbar. This is pulled mostly from their documentation on how to build this out. Again, one of the key reasons I wanted to go down this path, number one, was to see how we could use pre-installed packages. The second was I really like the look of the drop-down menu navigation list, as well as how it does that responsive design and turns it into a hamburger menu. Our footer is quite basic as well. We have a handle mail clicker function to send an email to my Coder Academy email address if clicked. Otherwise, it is purely 3 links. I did use the the Bootstrap button, as I like the defaulted ability for it to be outlined with no fill background, and then when you hover over it or click it, it has a solid fill. We'll also see with this in my styling that we have been able to complete a invert filter on the logo, which is the little paper aeroplane, to change it to white once it's hovered over, which I think is really nice as well. We'll get into, I suppose, the main part of this, which is our GitHub repo page. So this is what we use to render or display the GitHub cards through the use of this function here. This button group was the change button that you could see that was either green or red, depending on the choices, which is all handled within this function. And then this is the button requirement. And again, this information is found directly on the React Bootstrap website. So we've got a couple of things happening here. So we want to get the repos, which happens in a function call. We'll get the GitHub data. So this is an asynchronous function where originally we are going to set the sort type as updated, which is passed through here. Again, this is on the GitHub documentation, but we can sort by updated, we can sort by created. There's a few other things that we can sort by, but they were the 2 main ones that I wanted to see. Fairly basic sort of process here. Again, the documentation is very thorough for GitHub, so it didn't take too much to work this out. But this is where we're using this await octokit request to get this HTML component using our authentication key, which is hidden in env file or environment file. It is a fine token output from GitHub that you can create yourself. We have a catch error just in case something happens to error fetching repositories. We also have a token error up here to say that the token is not defined, as when I was attempting to do this, I found that I was either not defining or defining it incorrectly a few times, so putting an error into here was quite handy so I could see what my issue was. And now we also have this date utility that I wanted to implement. The date time that is output from the function from GitHub API is in the sort of traditional year, month, day, hour, minute, second Zulu time, or GMT. Instead, I wanted to change this to Australian Eastern Standard Time to be more human readable. So that's what this function does. And then finally, we have our card generator. So this actually is the function that outputs the cards that display on the GitHub page. We're using the React Bootstrap card again. We can put some functions in here. So we've added these inline styling options because we wanted them to display with the same color scheme as the rest of the website. So our card title here comes from our repo.name. Probably should have mentioned that. So we're bringing through the repo here from the information from the GitHub API. We are then setting the card title to be repo.name. We're setting the card subtitle to be repo.createdAt, with that repo.createdAt being passed through the format date to Australian Eastern Standard Time that we saw before. The card subtitle being the same, repo.updatedDate, formatted through the AEST. And then I've put some lorem ipsum text just into the base card text there. In an ideal world, and had I known this was a thing beforehand, so we can actually pull the repo description through here, but I've never wrote a repo description in any of the previous repositories I've created. And to do that on a scale of all of the cards was probably not going to be something time conducive to me, but it's probably something that I'll look at investigating in the future. Finally, we have our card link, which is from the repo.html URL from that API call again. So this is where we then map over those repos, and for each repo we create that repository card, giving it a key of the repo ID. That was a nice way, I thought, that we could just give it its information rather than just a generic ID. Each repository has its own unique ID already built in. The other page that we've got is just our contact page. It's pretty basic. There is a form in there, but I've disabled the form because it doesn't do anything at the moment. I don't have a mailer set up. If I did have that, I actually tried to install the package, but then realized it probably isn't going to work for me. So if I was using the Node Mailer package, we could get this to work, but right now I've just disabled it. That's my project. Thanks for watching.